Tharing filled with long speeches and handshakes, but something about the energy in the room felt different. Moments before, no one expected this. When golf legend Tiger Woods attended an international peace event, he thought it would be just another formal gathering. But the moment Ibrahim Traoré took the stage, everything changed. Traoré's heartfelt and emotional speech about unity, dignity, and courage struck Woods so deeply that he was seen wiping away tears. A rare moment of vulnerability from one of the world's most composed athletes. That emotional exchange instantly became a global viral moment, reminding millions that true greatness isn't just measured by trophies. It's defined by empathy, humility, and the courage to feel. The grand hall of the Global Peace Unity Summit buzzed with soft chatter and clinking glasses. Cameras flashed, journalists whispered, and dignitaries smiled politely. Tiger Woods sat quietly at the back table, wearing his usual calm, unreadable face. To him, this was just another event, a formal GATH keynote. A hush fell over the hall. The announcer's voice echoed, "Please welcome His Excellency, President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso." The young leader walked to the podium, his uniform crisp, his expression calm yet fierce. There was no script in his hand, no teleprompter to guide him. He simply looked across the crowd, athletes, presidents, billionaires, and began to speak from his heart. Within seconds, the tone in the room shifted. His voice carried both pain and power, the kind that demanded silence. Tiger leaned forward, eyes narrowing. He didn't know it yet, but this speech would pierce through the walls around his heart and leave him forever changed. True strength, Traoré began softly, is not found in power or wealth. It's found in how you lift others when the world looks away. The hall was still. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. Tiger felt a strange warmth stir inside him. These weren't the kind of words he was used to hearing from leaders. Traoré spoke of unity, of dignity, of nations rising by helping one another, not by competing but by standing together. Behind the cameras, journalists forgot their notes. Guests who had come to network found themselves listening instead. Then came the line that broke through Tiger's composure. We remember the heroes who swing clubs, raise flags, or hold titles. But the greatest victory is when a heart chooses kindness over pride. Tiger blinked hard. He felt his throat tighten. Memories of mistakes, pain, and redemption flashed through his mind. His injuries, his comeback, his losses. For the first time in years, Tiger wasn't thinking about golf. He was thinking about humanity. As the applause thundered, Traoré stepped down from the stage. He didn't smile for the cameras or wave like most leaders. Instead, he walked straight toward Tiger's table. For a split second, no one knew what was happening. The room quieted again. Traoré extended his hand, firm, respectful. "Brother," he said softly, "you have inspired millions through your resilience, but the world also needs your voice for peace." Tiger's lips parted, but no words came out. The sincerity in Traoré's tone disarmed him completely. He wasn't being praised for fame. He was being seen for his humanity. And then it happened. A single tear escaped Tiger's eye. He quickly wiped it, but too late. A camera flash caught the exact moment. The image spread across the world within hours. Tiger Woods moved to tears by Ibrahim Traoré's message of unity. But for Tiger, that moment wasn't about headlines. It was about truth and the reminder that even the strongest men still have hearts that feel. The applause had ended, but the emotion lingered like a heavy mist in the room. People tried to return to their seats, yet their hearts remained on that stage where Traoré's words had echoed. Tiger sat still. His chest felt tight, his hands trembling slightly. He had faced roaring crowds, world championships, and impossible comebacks, but never something like this. A journalist nearby whispered, "Did you see that?" Tiger Woods was crying. He heard it, and for once he didn't care. Across the hall, Traoré was quietly greeting guests. He wasn't basking in attention. He was thanking the staff, the translators, even the cameramen. Every gesture radiated humility. Something in Tiger's spirit stirred, a need to speak with him, to understand what kind of man could command a room with such calm power. He rose slowly and walked toward Traoré. As he approached, Traoré turned with a warm, knowing smile. "Mr. Woods," he said softly, "thank you for feeling." Tiger froze. No one had ever thanked him for feeling before. That single line, it felt like a mirror held to his soul. They stood by the large glass window overlooking the city lights. The crowd buzzed behind them, but neither man seemed to hear it. "I came here thinking it was just another event," Tiger admitted quietly. "But what you said, it hit something deep." Traoré nodded gently. "Because truth doesn't aim for the mind, my brother. It speaks to the heart." Tiger looked away, his voice trembling. "You spoke about dignity and courage. I've spent years chasing perfection, trophies, records, but I lost parts of myself along the way." Traoré placed a hand on his shoulder. "Perfection is not in never falling, Tiger. It's in rising with grace and helping others rise too." Those words sank deep. For a moment, Tiger felt like a boy again. Vulnerable, searching, humbled. The world saw him as unbreakable. But Traoré saw through him. When their eyes met again, there was no celebrity and no president. Only two men, bound by a silent understanding that humanity is greater than fame. A photographer caught the exact moment Traoré clasped Tiger's hand, their heads slightly bowed, emotion clear in both faces. That image, raw, human, powerful, exploded across social media within hours. Hashtags flooded every platform. Tears of unity, Tiger and Traoré, true greatness. Comment sections were filled with words like, "This made me cry. We need more leaders like him. This is what peace looks like." In just a few hours, the world stopped scrolling and started feeling. Reporters tried to spin the story politically, but the public saw something deeper. The meeting of two souls from different worlds, united by emotion. Tiger read the headlines in disbelief. Yet what moved him most wasn't the attention. It was the peace he felt inside. Something he hadn't known in years. That night, before leaving, he sent a handwritten note to Traoré's hotel. "Your words changed me. Let's talk again. Not as golfer and president, but as brothers." He didn't know it yet, but that note would lead to something far greater than headlines. Morning sunlight poured into President Traoré's hotel suite. He had barely slept. The echoes of his speech and the emotion on Tiger's face still played in his mind. A quiet knock broke his reflection. An aide entered, holding a small envelope. "Mr. President, this was delivered early this morning from Mr. Tiger Woods." Traoré carefully opened it. The handwriting was neat, deliberate, yet trembling with emotion. "Your words reached me deeper than any applause I've ever heard. I'd be honored to meet again, not as golfer and president, but as brothers." Traoré smiled softly. There was no need for cameras or attention, just an honest conversation between two men searching for meaning. He asked his aide to send a message back. "Tell him I will wait for him in the garden at noon." Outside, the world was still buzzing from last night's viral photo. But neither Tiger nor Traoré cared about fame now. What awaited them that afternoon would not just be a meeting. It would be a moment that would change how millions understood greatness. The hotel garden was quiet, a small haven of green in the middle of the city. Flowers swayed gently, the air fresh and alive. Tiger arrived wearing a simple white shirt and dark trousers. No cameras, no entourage, just him. He looked around and saw Traoré standing near a fountain, hands clasped behind his back, lost in thought. As Tiger approached, Traoré turned and smiled warmly. "I'm glad you came," he said softly. "I had to," Tiger replied. "Your words, they opened something in me I thought was long gone." Traoré nodded. "Sometimes we win trophies but lose peace. You have inspired millions, but your greatest victory is yet to come, when you use your voice to heal." Tiger's eyes glistened again. "You really believe one man can change the world?" Traoré smiled gently. "Not one man, but one heart at a time." The two men stood there in silence, birds chirping above them, two souls from different worlds united by truth. What neither of them knew was that someone nearby had quietly filmed the moment. By evening, the short clip had spread across the internet like wildfire. It showed no glamour, just two men in quiet conversation, hands clasped, eyes moist with emotion. The caption read, "A president and a golfer. Two hearts, one message." Within hours, it had over 50 million views. People all over the world wrote messages like, "This is what leadership looks like. I cried watching this. I wish our leaders spoke like Ibrahim Traoré." Tiger's team tried to manage the attention, but he refused to hide. "Let them see," he said calmly. "Let them feel what I felt." Meanwhile, Traoré stayed silent. He didn't release any statement. Didn't chase the moment. He simply went back to his room, knelt by the window, and whispered a quiet prayer for peace, for unity, and for hearts to stay open. That night, something extraordinary happened. A chain of reactions that neither man expected, and it began with a single tear seen across the world. By dawn, the viral clip had reached every corner of the internet, from sports channels to peace forums, from Africa to America. But among millions of comments, one message stood out. "For millions," he murmured. "But I think I just played for one little girl's hope." At that moment, he knew this was bigger than him. Later that day, Tiger made a decision that stunned his team. He called the event organizers and requested a private meeting with Traoré on camera, not for publicity, but to share something meaningful. When the broadcast began, there were no flashy lights or long introductions, just two men sitting under a simple Birkin Bay flag and an American flag side by side. Tiger began softly. "President Traoré, your words changed me. I realize greatness isn't about records. It's about what we leave behind in people's hearts." Traoré smiled warmly. "And you, my brother, have already inspired a generation. But when a great man decides to also be kind, that's when history remembers him forever." The two clasped hands again, and at that exact moment, the camera zoomed in. The sincerity in their eyes spoke louder than speeches ever could. People watching from every continent began to cry. It wasn't just a broadcast. It felt like a healing moment for the world. After the interview, the two men stood quietly as journalists prepared to end the session. But Tiger suddenly turned to Traoré and said something that left the entire room breathless. "I want to visit Burkina Faso," he said. "Not for cameras, but to see how your people live, to learn." The crowd gasped. Even Traoré looked taken aback. He smiled, humbled. "You will be welcome as a brother. My people believe the strongest hearts come not to be served, but to serve." The room erupted in applause. That single promise became the headline the next morning. Tiger Woods accepts invitation to visit Burkina Faso, inspired by Traoré's message of unity. But beyond the headlines, something sacred had begun. Two men from opposite worlds had found common ground and compassion. Outside, as the sun set behind the city skyline, Traoré whispered to his aide, "Sometimes God doesn't need a battlefield to make warriors. He just brings two hearts together." The world was already watching, but what would happen next would move them to tears once more. 2 days later, the world watched in awe as Tiger Woods' private jet touched down in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso. There were no flashing lights, no red carpets, just the sound of children singing and waving handmade flags that read, "Welcome, Brother Tiger." President Ibrahim Traoré stood waiting at the edge of the runway, his usual calm warmth shining through. When Tiger stepped out, their eyes met, and both men smiled like old friends reuniting. The cameras tried to capture everything, but what truly mattered couldn't be filmed. Tiger's look of humility as he stepped onto African soil, and the quiet respect between two men who didn't need words to understand each other. Traoré leaned close and said, "In my country, we don't measure a man by what he owns, but by how he treats those with nothing." Tiger nodded slowly. "Then I have much to learn." As they entered the city, Tiger was greeted not by fame, but by gratitude. The streets were filled with ordinary people whose hearts had been touched by Traoré's leadership. And for the first time in years, Tiger felt something deeper than victory. He felt peace. The next morning, Traoré invited Tiger on a quiet drive outside the capital. No motorcade, no reporters, just the two of them in a dusty vehicle, heading toward a small village surrounded by golden fields. When they arrived, children ran barefoot to greet them, laughing joyfully despite their worn clothes. Tiger stood still, overwhelmed. He'd played on the world's richest courses, yet he had never seen smiles so pure. Traoré gently placed a hand on his shoulder. "This is the heart of my people. We have little, but we share what we have." An elderly woman came forward with a small basket of mangoes and handed it to Tiger. "Welcome," she said softly in broken English. "You are family now." Tiger's eyes filled with tears. "I don't deserve this kindness," he whispered. Traoré smiled. "That's what makes it pure." In that moment, Tiger understood what no championship had ever taught him. That greatness wasn't about standing above others, but standing with them. As the sun set over the village, both men sat quietly, listening to laughter in the distance. Two souls changed forever by a simple act of love. Before Tiger's return flight that evening, Traoré called him into his office. On the table lay a small wooden box beautifully carved by local artisans. "This is for you," Traoré said softly. Tiger opened it and found a single stone inside, smooth, plain, but shining faintly in the light. Traoré explained. This stone was taken from the land of Burkina Faso. It represents strength and endurance, but it is simple, like truth. Carry it and remember what truly matters. Tiger's voice broke as he said, "I came here thinking I'd teach, but I'm the one who's learned." Trey nodded with a humble smile. Then my message reached its home. When Tiger boarded his plane, he clutched that small stone tightly. Cameras caught a tear on his cheek as he looked out the window one last time. That image, Tiger Woods holding a humble gift from a humble leader, swept across the world. People didn't just see two famous men. They saw hope. They saw what the world could be when hearts choose compassion over pride. A few hours before his flight back home, Tiger Woods was asked to speak briefly at a press gathering. Cameras surrounded him, but this time there was no polished confidence, just honesty. He stepped to the microphone and said softly, "Yesterday I met a man who reminded me that greatness isn't about how high we climb, but how deeply we care." The crowd went silent. Tiger continued, "President Traoré's words touched something in me. He showed me that humility and strength can live in the same heart. I came here as a golfer. I leave here as a student of humanity." Traoré, standing beside him, looked humbled. He didn't interrupt or gesture. He simply bowed his head, a small act that carried enormous grace. For the first time, reporters weren't rushing to shout questions. Many had tears in their eyes. That short speech lasted less than 2 minutes, but it became one of the most replayed videos of the decade. Two men from two different worlds had shared a truth bigger than fame, the courage to feel, and the world was listening. By evening, every news channel replayed the footage. Commentators stopped talking about sports or politics. They talked about humanity. In classrooms, teachers showed the clip to their students. In churches and mosques, leaders quoted Trey's words about lifting others when the world looks away. Even rival politicians praised the moment as a rare reminder that leadership begins in the heart. Social media overflowed with messages like, "I cried watching this. This is what true leadership looks like. The world needs more Ibrahims and more Tigers who can feel." Meanwhile, Traoré remained calm. When asked how he felt about the viral moment, he simply said, "If a single person chooses kindness because of this, then it was worth it." Tiger, back in his hotel room, stared at the small Burkina Bay stone Traoré had gifted him. It wasn't shiny or perfect, but it carried weight. And in that quiet moment, he realized something. Some victories are not won on golf courses. They are won inside the soul. As the sun rose over Ouagadougou, Tiger's jet prepared for takeoff. Traoré came to see him off. No cameras, no ceremony, just two men standing on the tarmac, hearts full. "Thank you," Tiger said, his voice shaking. "You've changed how I see the world." Traoré smiled gently. "Then go and change it with love." They embraced not as athlete and leader, but as brothers. When Tiger's plane lifted into the sky, the moment felt almost sacred. Across the world, people watched that final clip of the two men hugging, and something inside them softened. For a brief, precious time, humanity remembered what it means to feel. That day, no trophies were lifted, no deals were signed, but a leader and a legend reminded millions that the greatest victories happen when hearts connect. And that, my friends, was a moment the world will never forget. If this story touched your heart, don't just scroll away. Click like to honor true compassion. Comment below what part moved you the most. And subscribe right now to Heroic Stories, where we bring you real stories that make the world feel again. Because sometimes one story can change